Hi, I'm Byron, and thank you for joining me today on Chat with Byron. Today we're going to be talking about burnout, and it's not a very fun topic to talk about it, but I do want to talk about it because it's so incredibly important. Because we all know what it's like to. Most of us need to work. Most of us um, are in jobs that we like. Some of us are in jobs that we don't like. And for those of us who are in jobs that we don't necessarily love, or we're working with people that we don't really connect with, it's it really are people like you that are the folks that are subject to this topic today more than probably most, because burnout is actually it's an emotional state. I would say it's an emotional and mental state where you feel physically exhausted by your job, and it's not necessarily tied to or connected to, even though they are contributing factors to, like working 60, 70 hours a week. And I know what that's like. I mean, I had a job where I put in my 40 hours by the end of Tuesday. So the point is that burnout isn't 100% a factor of just long hours. It's long hours doing work that you just despise, or you see it as toil or drudgery. You work with people that you don't respect, you don't connect to. And then this whole idea of stress. And then I think that the amount of stress that we all experience, and this is kind of literally a global event with COVID in 2020. You got to remember that, this is, we were in the, what is it? This would be the second week of being shut down in 2020, in March 2020. Because remember, it happened on a Friday. I forget what the actual date, but it was the middle of March in 2020 where the shutdown happened, and that we were shut down for a solid 6 weeks. So the stress that everyone felt from that, and then the stress that everyone felt even post COVID going into 2021, 22, 23, now 24, all of that stress is what experts call cumulative. It actually adds up. And if you don't have a way, if you don't have a regimen, if you don't have habits that somehow refill your bucket, so to speak, then this idea of burnout is going to be habitual and chronic, which means that it's never going to go away. And that's why the work that I do as a big Y coach, I believe, is so it is important, and it's work that I don't want to see people suffering. And I do think a lot of burnout, especially the burnout of the folks that I meet with on a regular basis, and even the folks I've talked to that are prospective clients, the burnout that I think that they are experiencing is avoidable. So it's important for us to kind of to be aware of some of the signs. I'm going to talk about the signs in a second. But one of the precursor signs, one of the signs that comes even before the signs, is this idea of being cynical or negative or depressed. And this is one of those deals that of just being aware of kind of how your mindset is, what, because joy, remember, joy is a function of focus. So you have to ask yourself, what am I focusing upon? What am I focusing on? And if you're focusing on how much you hate your job, how much you hate your boss, how much you hate your colleagues, how much you hate the work, you're probably going to hate most of your life. And again, sure, this is kind of, anchored in your work, but I can promise you this, you're taking that home. It just doesn't stop when you leave your work. It has effects outside of your work. So let's just look at this. So do you have any of these kind of, I did share a little bit just a second ago about, cynicism and depression, but do you feel currently at your work, do you feel undervalued or possibly overlooked, or in some instances dismissed? Do you feel like that they're not hearing you or seeing you? And in today's working environment, where a lot of our work is done even through like a Zoom interaction, like what we're having here today, it's important for you to have a strategy of how you can get noticed, how you can get heard, how you can get seen in a way that's respectable, that's a part of your job. And because the reality is that you feel burnt out, but there's also a very high likelihood that what if your boss is burnt out? What if the reason why you're feeling so undervalued isn't because it's personal, it's because your bosses feel burnt out. They don't feel heard either. So this ends up kind of becoming this gigantic swirl of, it can overtake a team, it can overtake a company, where this becomes a pervasive culture in a company. So burnout is absolutely 100% real, and we don't want to ignore it. The other idea is this idea of are you currently feeling a loss of motivation, where it's hard for you to find motivation for you to do your job? And that's also something that is so primary in the coaching that when I'm coaching leaders in the Big Y coaching, or even my other coaching, is this idea that what if you are the one that brings the motivation with you, where you don't get or need motivation from work? You're the one that actually brings the motivation, purpose, and meaning with you wherever you go. And that solves a lot of that problem. It also solves the whole point of burnout, because you know why you're doing what you're doing, and you know when you're going to arrive at your job, and when you're going to leave your job. And when you leave your job, I'll give you a short story. There was a job I had, is actually what brought us down to San Diego. And in this job, I arrived early. I arrived at this job at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's just because I'm an early riser, right? I'm what do they call it? I'm a lark as opposed to an owl. Owls like to stay up late. They're night owls. I'm a lark. And again, that's important for you to know, because if you are an owl, you don't want to take a job that requires you to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning. But I'm a lark, so I arrived at this job at just it was probably 6:15 actually. I got to the job at 6:15. But that meant for me in my mindset that I could leave at 5 o'clock, and I did every single day at 5 o'clock. Boom, I was gone. Well, the owner of the company didn't like that, but the owner of the company, they showed up like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I'd already been there for a few hours. It didn't matter. The owner felt like you needed to be there as long as he was until he left, and he usually left around 7 o'clock. And I told him, I said, that's not going to happen. He said, well, why is that? I said, I have a family. So my point is that I wasn't going to allow, I already made a decision. I wasn't going to allow myself to be burnt out. I wasn't going to allow myself to be taken advantage of, and to be manipulated and guilted into staying longer in a job when I'd already put in a fair day's worth of work. So do you feel that lack of motivation? Do you feel that disconnection? Do you feel this? The disconnection is this. How I would describe it is this kind of this unholy dissatisfaction with where you currently are, with what you're currently doing, and that is an absolute sign of burnout. If you have any of those issues of feeling undervalued, feeling the lack of motivation, feeling that sense of disconnection. And it also, burnout, it has such an eroding quality. It chips away slowly, but eventually significantly, so that you have very little confidence because you're so exhausted, you're so tired, you're so worn down. So if you're feeling that sense of that you no longer have that confidence in your abilities, what you have is this overwhelming sense of foreboding and concern about your abilities, where before you didn't have these thoughts about being an imposter, but now you do. You feel like, I don't even know if I had this conversation with someone a few weeks ago. I don't even know if I'm in the right segment of work. And it was absolutely clear that person is in the right role. I mean, he's a rock star. Not literally a rock star, but he's a rock star in his area. But the point is he was feeling complete and utter doubt because he was so exhausted and he was burnt out. So he doubted his abilities. And when you're doubting your abilities, do you think that you're going to be able to put forth your best work? Probably not. And this leads to where this can kind of blow up in our face at home, because we come home and we either, we yell at our spouse. We want to have some peace and quiet, especially if you have a young family. You're irritable. You kick the cat or you kick the dog. Not literally, but the point is that irritability that you're experiencing because of that dissatisfaction, that disconnection from work, and you're being burnt out. You take that home in this idea of when you get home, you're already depleted. You have nothing left to give when you get home. And when you go home, I promise you have people that need you to give to them. And it doesn't matter what your role at home is. You have people in your life, and they could be people or they could be animals, but unless you live by yourself, but you're going to feel the demands of, once you cross that threshold into your house, apartment, or condo, whatever, you're going to feel that pressure. Now they need you. And if you have nothing to give, that's going to cause problems. So this whole thing of burnout is not just simply about work. It's about how we want to live and have a life that is meaningful, and a life that we can thrive in. Because when we have burnout, we feel undervalued. We feel the lack of motivation. We feel that disconnection. We have these extreme doubts that kind of come and go. We obviously have this increase in irritability, but we also have this lack of energy, where we feel like when we have to get up in the morning, we so much want to hit the snooze button, so we can sleep another, 7-9 minutes? It's not very long. It's not really sleep. You're not really sleeping, but you lack energy. Your energy, you try to catch up on the weekends, but man, you are already exhausted when you wake up on Monday morning because you have no energy. And that has an impact, a huge impact on your job performance, because that completely takes away. When you're burnt out, it robs you of this ability to focus. And you can't contribute in your job the way that you normally would, because being burnt out, feeling undervalued, the lack of motivation, all those things we just said, it robs you of this ability to do your job and perform and to have focus. And what that you automatically, when you're feeling this, you're automatically going to blame your job. And it may not be your job's fault. There are a number of factors that are kind of contribute to this, but it may not necessarily be purely exactly your job's fault. And then when this gets even worse, it'll have an impact on your sleep, where you're not sleeping the way that you want to or need to. Instead of you go to bed at 8 o'clock, but it's not like you went to bed at 8 o'clock. It's like you went to bed at 3 and you never fell asleep. So you wake up exhausted. You have low productivity. And then if you don't have good coping skills and good coping mechanisms to cope with the stress, because again, the stress is cumulative. It can accumulate. Then you can turn to things to help you sleep: drugs, alcohol. You can consume more food than you need to. If you don't have the energy to exercise, you stop exercising. And then you take drugs or alcohol to make you sleep, to make you feel better. And then all of a sudden you start having these unexplained physical maladies. I mean, this is such a huge issue in our country, in our, North America, that we don't talk about it. But all these things, these are the issues that kind of come up with burnout. So do you question the value of your work? Because it's really important that when you see yourself working, that you're the one that brings the value and the meaning that you're going to contribute to today. And again, if you're in this kind of this cycle, this cyclone, this eddy, this hurricane of depression and cynicism and burnout, you're not going to feel like you're providing value. You're not going to feel like you value anything other than you're in this place and space where you're probably blaming more than you really want to. But it kind of it's taken a toll. Everyone wants to feel valued in work, and everyone wants to be motivated in their work. But when you drag yourself to work and it's hard to even get started, you can see how burnout just literally drains us of our motivation. And like I alluded to earlier, burnout makes us feel disconnected. And this is one of the reasons why I even started the Big Why Coaching, is because I really believe that burnout is such a structural part of many of us in our work. And a lot of the folks I work with are business owners, and they're of a large variety of different kinds of businesses. But when you own your own business, these folks, when they feel disconnected, it's really hard, because they have a lot of responsibilities to provide for, if it's payroll or if it's, customers. There's a lot on the line, but they feel completely removed from their work, and they're miserable. And I work with a lot of people like that, because as you can imagine, burnout creates this sense of doubt. It plants these seeds that you don't have the skills and abilities to do your job, and you really do. So being reminded who you are, what your identity is, what it is that you believe about yourself, what it is you believe about the world, those are really important questions to be pondering. But when you're in the middle of burnout, you don't have the perspective to think of those questions. As I shared earlier, when you feel so sapped and drained and cut off, and lack of motivation, lack of value, the irritability is it's inevitability. You're going to become irritable, and you want to protect those that you love. Then you don't want to get to the point or the spot or the place where you're feeling that burnout, because it sucks out any energy we have, and it completely cripples us of our focus. And which obviously this can be depressing, but it also has an impact on our job. It impacts our sleep. It impacts our productivity. It can lower our inhibitions, and it impacts us physically. So signs of burnout: exhaustion, the dreading of work, trouble sleeping, depression. You feel like you're drowning. You have a short temper, no time for non-work, isolation, escape fantasies, frequent illness. These are the signs. So it's just, my heart goes out to you if you're experiencing these. And I would just encourage you to reach out to me, and just maybe something to consider. Just start with taking the predictive index, because I want to offer that to you for free anyway, just because I would love to have a chance to have a conversation with you. But the point is that if that's the excuse of why we meet, and you say, no, I don't want to really talk about the PI. I want to talk about how I'm doing, because I'm not doing very good. But this is something that can actually be prevented. And what I would want to just kind of give you a little bit of thought on today is, it's possible to recover from burnout. The idea of making sure that you are making a priority for sleep, making a priority for exercise, making a priority for mental recovery, social recovery, and gratitude. And you're able to, because if you are consistently making room and being intentional about feeling grateful and thankful, then your burnout, that will absolutely completely partially keep burnout at bay. The sleep thing, I'm still working on that myself. I mean, last night I went to bed at 8:00, but my phone said that I went to bed at 9:45. Unless someone else was in my body, I thought I went to bed at 8:00. Well, I only got, according to my watch, 5 hours and 45 minutes of sleep. That's not enough. That's not enough sleep. I need more sleep. So all of these things I'm working on with you. This is not something like I have all this mastered. I don't. And I'm looking at something that's going to help me. I mean, I'm actually looking at, have you ever heard of this stuff called grounding, or going outside and making sure your feet are on the ground, and then getting these things where your sheets are grounded. It's somehow you plug your sheets into the wall. I'm gonna invest in that probably in the next couple of weeks, because I want to see if that has a positive impact on my sleep, because I want to prevent burnout, because I work hard just like you do. And exercise today, I mean, I do leg exercise. I lift weights. I work out 5 days a week. Today was my leg day. It was so tempting this morning not to go into the gym and skip my second leg day on Mondays and Fridays. I could have skipped today, but I didn't. I went in, and I felt better for going to. The point is that in order for us to prevent and to stave off burnout, we've got to take some preventative measures, preventative actions. You've got to take care of yourself. And even in my coaching, when I provide like an initial proposal and talk about onboarding and stuff, I have step 1, 2, 3, but step 0 is sleep. Sleep is so incredibly important. If you're not sleeping, you're probably going to always feel burnt out. So how do we apply this? We need to recognize the early symptoms. We need to be aware of these early signs of that chronic fatigue, of if you have like reduced performance, if you have like a really, really bad quarter, or a bad performance review, that kind of leads into this idea of cynicism, suspicion. Everyone's out to get you. And then all of a sudden you start to begin this feeling of feeling detached from your job. Those are the early warning signs of burnout. I think it's important for you to set realistic goals and to avoid overcommitting. I think as long as the goals that you're making for work, make some goals that you want to create and make for yourself outside of work that are similar to these, that are anchored in sleep, exercise, mental recovery, social recovery, and gratitude. Because by doing those, having those goals and setting those realistic goals, that can also be helpful. Because as much as burnout is a reality, there's also something to be said. You can get so much joy and reward from doing work that you love and that is fulfilling to you. And you can do fulfilling work even for a company that even your job isn't fulfilling, but you're fulfilling your own purpose and meaning and bringing value to the job. So there's a way to play. Now, it's not really a trick. It's just a perspective and a perception. It's just, you can bring the value with you, and that will absolutely completely keep burnout away, because you'll be in control and not the bad boss, not the bad company. And if you want to know more about that, reach out. But because I know what it's like to be in a situation where you're working in a company or an environment that is toxic. I worked in a toxic environment for a long time. And I tried to stay as long as I could to try to make a difference. But once I realized I wasn't going to make a difference, I knew I was going to leave. It was just a matter of time. The point is, I never felt burned out in that job. I never felt like I wanted to quit. I was trying to work from within. It's almost like this. It's very, very subversive, in a very subversive way. That's what I was trying to do. You've got to prioritize yourself in your own self-care. You've got to incorporate, like I did this morning. You got to go to the gym. Or some form of exercise. I mean, I think the best exercise, actually, in my opinion, is walking. It's free, and you can do it. You can do a lot of it. You can also eat better, eat healthfully. And we talked about sleep. And I'm kind of crazy about sleep. I mean, my family will tell you everything from wearing special glasses. Even these glasses are tinted because you're supposed to filter out the blue light. But I haven't worn them lately, but I have these glasses I wear for watching TV because I don't want the blue light to affect my pre-sleep. So my sleep is trashed or wrecked. And I take these, what are they called? Sleep Fairy. I got them from Amazon. Let's try to get me into some sort of different state of mind so I can sleep. So sleep, you're talking to someone who really truly believes in this stuff. Self-care is, you've got to prioritize it. You got to take regular breaks. And the cool thing about the break things because especially if you're in problem solving mode, a lot of us aren't necessarily in problem solving mode. We're kind of like in production mode. It's not the same, but when you're in problem solving mode, when you take those breaks, your brain actually is working on solving the problem both in forward and reverse. I think it's 20 times the speed. It's incredible. But if you don't take the breaks, your brain never does that work. So take the breaks, because your brain, especially your problem, if you're in production, it doesn't work the same. If you're trying to write something, but if you're trying to solve something, absolutely take the breaks. But I would also say, just kind of, besides you getting up and stretching or hanging or walking or getting a drink of water, whatever, hydration is key. The point is it just taking regular breaks. I want to be able to also add a little pro vacation point here of taking vacations. And your vacation doesn't have to be something it's grand or grandiose or costly or expensive. It can actually be, just staying home and maybe sleeping more, or maybe doing, going for some extra long walks. I don't know, but the point is taking breaks, regular breaks is important, including vacations. Practice mindfulness, practice prayer, relaxation. It could be yoga, it could be deep breathing, it could be a combination of things. So burnout is here. It's with us. I also have a burnout little PDF I'd be happy to give you if you want to reach out to me and ask for this. I'd be happy to give it to you, because it's something I wrote that kind of goes along with all these things. All of these things I'm doing on Chat with Byron have a PDF. And I need to update this, because now we have a new little fella. We have Mookie, and this is Zeke, who passed away. And now we have Max. And Max is terribly cute, but these are the things I love. My family. What's the thing I haven't talked about? I love to learn. I'm constantly learning and reading. And I used to, I'm not currently listening to a book now, but I used to listen to a couple books a week. When I learned about, there's two things I learned about. One was obviously Audible. I would get books on Audible. And then the other thing was I got books on Libby, Libby. And Libby is a library app. And you can and it doesn't cost you anything. It's free. Where Audible, I think I pay like $14 a month for Audible. But what I got used to was listening to books faster than normal. And I got to the point where, and maybe not today, I think the fastest I can listen to something is probably 1.75 speed. But when I was going through 2 books a week, I was listening to stuff at 2x, twice the speed. And I was retaining it. I got it, and I love that. So there's a part of me that's kind of has a kind of like a real high appetite for learning and applying this stuff. But I'm all about trying to prevent burnout, because I think burnout sucks. Burnout it ruins our life. I would just encourage you, if you are so inclined, to go to this byronlow.com/join. You can join the 1% Better community. I have a free 10-day 1% Better challenge. Would love to hear from you. But I appreciate the opportunity just to share and express this, these thoughts on burnout, because burnout, there are too many people that are experiencing this, and they don't have to. And I think that we can help each other out by helping them. So if you know someone you want to send them my way, I'd be happy to have a conversation with them and talk to them, because we don't have to be burnt out. Hope you guys have a great weekend and enjoy watching March Madness, because I'm going to be watching some games today. You take care.